Welcome to a brand new vlog episode. So today I thought that I would do the absolute unthinkable, which is basically talk to you guys, but something I know. I thought that I would talk to you guys about something that I haven't actually talked to you about on this channel, which is money and the relationship to money, but really breaking it down in terms of how it kind of comes about throughout spirituality. And when you're on this path to become just a little bit more aware, I almost said enlightened, but that's not really what I mean. When you become a lot more aware, if you go through your own spiritual awakening and you're doing a lot more spiritual practices, there's almost like this stigma around that talks about how money is not spiritual and you shouldn't be wealthy, and then, you know, all those shoulding. So let me explain a little bit further. Also, in other news, it started to snow. I don't know about you guys, but I have this very deep affection towards snow. I really, really love it when it snows. I think that it's like the most beautiful thing in the world. Okay. Why did I want to talk to you? First of all, why are we back to vlogging? To be honest, because I really missed it. I missed just casually sitting down with you guys and not really doing a tarot reading, not doing a yoga practice, not showing up on the mat, but just really just sitting down, perhaps with your baby, perhaps with your cup of coffee, and really just chatting about what happens, because I think that it's important to record this. What happens when you set out not only on a spiritual path of healing, but what happens when you make a commitment to really show up for yourself. So I really realized that a lot of the blocks that actually show up for me have a lot more to do with money. And the more I'm learning about the law of attraction and how to apply them and what that means, and really just diving deep into these topics, the more I'm really seeing where the blocks are sort of, and the limiting beliefs are kind of coming up. And the whole point of mindfulness, and I guess the reason why I decided that mindfulness is that next sort of logical step for me, has a lot more to do with the fact that I'm learning to really watch how I think and how I talk to myself on a daily basis, and just witness it without any attachment or any judgment towards myself. And that actually shows up with a relationship with money. And I never really thought about having a relationship with money. I would have thought that, you know, it was always just something that I have to deal with. I think we all have to deal with money in a certain way. But I never thought to really, I didn't understand that whole idea of, you know, making friends with your money and treating it like a good friend. So it's been really interesting, because I think that, I guess like what kind of opened up the door for me was actually listening to a couple of different manifestation podcasts that would just reframe it in a totally different way than how I used to think about money. And I really got called out on my money belief. And it's interesting when you place your attention onto the things that are like right in front of you, then a sort of energy goes where your attention goes. And that's so true. Like when you place your attention onto something, you start paying closer attention to how that's actually affecting your life. So in the past week, I'm just going to use the example of what we're doing with making some minor changes. Minor as in it seems like a minor change. It's actually a significant change, and how deeply rooted that significant change is. It seems like such a minor thing, but it actually affects me personally pretty heavily. And I don't know if you guys relate. If you relate, let me know in the comments. But I wanted to, first of all, before we start anything, before I tell you like the insight, I wanted to start this vlog series where each week we kind of sit down and I just sort of share not so much about the practices that I'm doing within mindfulness, because a lot of it I will be offering online really soon actually, but what can happen when you commit to regularly showing up for your own practices, whether that's your regular meditation, your journaling, like any form of self-care, if you're getting back into your regular yoga practices, or just, you know, simply paying attention to your finances and creating a better relationship and doing some shadow work around your finances and letting that aspect of your life heal, right? I would read money books in the past, and just a little background around this, because I'm also coming from a financial background. So before I went into the health industry, I was actually working in finance for close to 10 years. It was the most miserable close to 10 years of my life. I've done the education behind finance. I would tell people how to get a mortgage, how to get approved for loans and that sort of thing. But I personally never had a healthy relationship with my money. It was always coming from a place of lack, and I couldn't guide others to have a healthier relationship with their finances because I was constantly helping them get into more debt. You know, like it wasn't really, I wasn't part of the solution. I was literally very much part of a system that is in the process of being rebuilt. So after seeing just how damaging that environment was for me personally, I finally found a way to kind of get out and then really begin my journey within the health and wellness realm that just felt a lot more aligned, and especially right now as I'm moving more into spiritual practices and really making the base foundation of everything that I do all about spirituality first as the core, and then kind of building on that. This is where I'm more shifting towards actually being in alignment with what feels like true alignment for me in my heart, you know? But it's a process. I mean, I think we're all on this journey to kind of figure it all out. I'm not here to share money saving tips. I didn't want to make this video as a how-to. I wanted to make this video more as a reflection of what can happen when you begin your mindfulness practices and you do them regularly and you become really hyper aware of how you think and how you relate to the things that are around you. And I think that that's the point. So the point is not for you to constantly gain like financial advice where you should invest, although I do believe that, you know, you paying closer attention and learning the ropes about the world of finance is highly valuable, and there's 1,000,001 channels that can teach you about that. I'm not one of those channels. I'm more about figuring out how to be realigned with abundance and how to be realigned and create a healthier relationship with your money. And I'm pretty sure that because this is going to be a loaded episode, we will kind of continue this conversation of what comes up and how it comes up, especially as we're moving into, you know, Black Friday, we're moving into the holiday season. Personally, for us, December is an extremely hectic month. We have 2 birthdays. We also have the busiest season within the health industry. So generally, this is where most therapists find themselves extremely burnt out and just emotionally completely wrecked because we see so many people. Now, and of course, people overspend quite a bit, actually. And that kind of leaves you with this whole other conversation. Bringing it back to where I'm at right now and what was my awareness, it was basically just paying closer attention and I guess making a decision to create a better relationship with my finances. And then that started with really having the courage to look at where our habits are taking us and how those habits are paying off, and what is our habits, our current spending habits give us, and what is the payoff, and then what is the cost for that payoff. So having those really hard, like having a hard look at all of those things was not comfortable, very necessary, and highly valuable, because I started looking at and really having a dialogue with myself instead of attaching to my current habits different emotions like guilt, shame, regret, like all of those vibrations that I really didn't want to tap into, I started to have more of a dialogue, an open-ended dialogue of and getting a deeper understanding as to why I'm doing the things that I'm doing and what is the payoff really. And through this dialogue with myself, I discovered what our needs are. I'm just going to use the example of groceries because we overspend on groceries. And I'm not sure if you guys have a bigger family, but groceries is one of those weird things that it's always like, we need to buy more. You know what I mean? Like we would have like food delivery service, but then we would also buy certain things from Costco, and then we would buy the rest of the things that we needed for the week from like Walmart. And I'm finding that I'm like, okay, you're not actually utilizing all the things that you purchase each week. So why do you feel the need that you constantly need to purchase this volume? What is it that you actually need versus what is it that you're actually doing? Like, how can we kind of recalibrate those two things? And so when I started kind of having this type of conversation with myself, I really realized that what I actually needed was more of a meal planning service versus having meals delivered to me. Because meal planning services, I don't know if you guys are familiar, it doesn't really matter which one you end up going with, but per serving, it ends up being pretty expensive. It's ideal. I think that they are great. I think that it can be a temporary solution, but when you have a bigger family and either way, you're going to have to cook the food anyhow. So it was just understanding and diving deeper into what our needs are versus what we're doing. How can we resync and reallocate some of those funds into something different that is actually serving us in a different way, right? And the only way that I could get to that space is by bringing awareness to what is working, what is not working, how I want to shift, and then giving myself that grace period for me to shift, which I think is very important. Why am I telling you about this? I'm telling you about this because if you're struggling the way that I was struggling with a lot of this, I think that it's very important to create space where you can really bring awareness to what it is that you're doing and how it's working for you. And it's so easy to judge what you do. It's so easy to constantly just look at ways to break yourself down, to be hard on yourself, to constantly look for ways that you can improve and asking yourself why you didn't know it in the first place, right? Knowing that it's a process and it's sort of like asking yourself why you can't bench press 120 pounds on day one after you've taken 2 years off of your fitness routine, right? Like it's having those extremely unrealistic expectations of yourself and never truly measuring up. That was the point. That was the point that I really wanted to drive home, where what I'm really realizing is that perhaps I've been really hard on myself in the way that I'm really approaching my decisions, and my expectations were not really realistic. And they were not really realistic because I never really learned to progressively ask myself questions that would really lead me down the path of figuring it out and making adjustments that would suit my needs, which my needs are constantly changing anyway. So that's why I wanted to begin this conversation. See if any of this that I'm telling you right now resonates with you guys, because I think that especially having an abundant money mindset is key when it comes to manifestation. Any manifestation coach will tell you that, but it's also bringing awareness to all of these different wounds and attachments that perhaps you might have as well, with your finances, with the way that you approach abundance, with what abundance really means to you, and where you're creating leaks or where you're sabotaging your own progress. So right now, me and my money, we are becoming friends. We're getting to really know each other, and we're building trust within each other that I can be responsible and I can make decisions based on my current needs versus just my immediate desires. And it's a process, and I'm being gentle with myself, and I'm taking my time because it's a new habit. But I know that me bringing awareness to my choices will actually lead me down the path of just creating change that can potentially last. So my question to you, actually I have two questions. Today are going to be special, and I'm going to ask two questions. First one is, are you new to mindfulness? Do you have a mindfulness practice? And number two, did any of these shadows that I mentioned in this video, all about money mindset, do you relate? Do you have any lack money mindset things that you're dealing with? Not because I want to call you out, but because I would love to be your cheerleader. I would love to be the person that cheers you on just the same way that I'm cheering myself on to make positive change. So let's start this conversation, you guys. If this relates to you, I would love to hear from you. And let me know how you guys like this vlog style videos, because I have to say, I really have missed it. I think that, you know, vlogging has just been it's been one of those things that I really enjoyed, but I didn't really come back to it. So here we are. Let's get started. Let's talk about mindfulness. Let's talk about making changes in a more aligned way, I guess. That's all I have for you. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you again in my next one. Bye.